Hi, how are you? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good day. And thanks for coming and listening to me for a little bit. I do appreciate your support. I do think this is a very valuable topic, and I do sort of enjoy hopefully making a difference in people's lives as well. Today, I want to just talk about sort of males and just male friends as well. Um, I've had quite a lot of male friends over the years, and you can sort of put them into probably a couple of categories. But that's not what I'm here to do to categorize them. What I really want to sort of highlight is the importance of having both male and female friends, but probably for men especially, is having real male friends. And what I mean by that is actually people that you can sort of feel like you can actually talk to and open up to. I think in Australia and other cultures as well, there's this real sort of stoicness that we have, that we don't show our feelings, we don't sort of reveal anything of ourselves. We're all men, we're all fine, we're all good. There's nothing that can sort of harm us, and we're all fine. Again, with the Fine Brigade, as I've sort of talked about before. But I think what is becoming more and more, especially through the groups that I go to and other people that I talk to, is that having a couple of real male friends where you can open up and say whatever you need to, and you know that it's a safe environment. You know that it's not going to go back to anybody, so there's trust there as well. And you know that it's not there about being hurtful to somebody. It's really just about maybe venting before something else happens in terms of in a worst case. Excuse me. Um, and so from those sort of point of view, this idea of having that male friend or multiple male friends where you can actually have those sort of conversations is quite important. I think as men, we hold a lot of things in. And we sort of feel like we can deal with them. And most of the time we can. Most of the time there's simple things we can do, and sometimes they resolve themselves. But sometimes there's also those ones that fester underneath, where we don't like to talk about it, or we don't know how to talk about it. I think there's a misconception that men don't like to talk. I think that's probably a little bit wrong. Sometimes men don't know how to talk. I know men sometimes are worried about saying the wrong thing, saying it in a hurtful way, and then starting off something else that they didn't want to. Maybe saying something that they didn't know how to express themselves, and so they said it in an offhandish way, but they just wanted to get it out. But then that's caused all sorts of other sort of problems as well. So I don't think sometimes it's not about men don't want to talk. It's men don't want to say the wrong thing. And men, especially to a partner, don't want to hurt that person as well by saying something that might hurt that person, even though they're just trying to vent themselves, as it were, and also maybe just sort of saying what's on their mind. So having a male partner, as it were, a friend. I'm not talking about a male partner, but you may have a male partner as well. Don't care. But having that male friend that you can sort of actually treat like they're willing to listen to anything. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to have any sort of real call on you, or sort of think less of you. It's sort of somebody who's really there for you and you for them. This is a reciprocation that you're really dealing with here, and that you can sort of talk to things allows some of these things just to be opened up. I've found with a lot of in these groups that I go to, a lot of times when men just sort of say the things that are on their mind, it just allows that valve to be released, but also sometimes it dissipates the whole thing. It's sort of like, I've said it now, and I'm happy that I've said it to somebody. I didn't need anything to be done with it. I didn't need to fix it or anything like that. I just needed to say it. I didn't know how to say it. I've said it here. I'm fine. I've done it. I'm good now. I feel like I've said my piece and I've not hurt anybody. And I think that's where sometimes having those male friends can really sort of help to allowed to be said in that safe zone and not feel that there's going to be potential consequences or something like that. Now, if you're a good friend and you have a good friend, if it's something that's really quite serious, you'd hope that that friend would then sort of suggest, maybe you need to go talk to somebody else about this. This sounds really serious, or, that just doesn't sound like a little thing. Maybe you need to actually talk to your partner about that, or something like that. So it also allows a sounding board at the same time. And then sort of for some men, they can then sort of say, okay, maybe this is causing me some sort of issues. It's making me lash out. It's making me, feel depressed. It's making me anxious when I go home and stuff like that. When I was in my first marriage, I didn't really have any good male friends. And I always remember one time when I really didn't want to go home, and if I had actually somebody to talk to at that point in time, I would have talked about my marriage and how far it was breaking down. And I only had really myself to talk to. And as most people know, you talk to yourself, you get what you want to hear, or you get what you think you want to hear, or you get all sorts of things, but you don't get really sometimes good advice from yourself, because we're either in protection mode or we're in fight mode, and we want to sort of do that, get into it. And I remember there was a couple instances when my first marriage was on the rocks, and I would walk home from work, and we're talking, nearly a 1.5 hour journey. So, if that's not avoidance, I don't know what is. But I think at that time, if I'd had somebody that I could confide in and talk about my problems, I might have then had a better chance of either saving that marriage, if it would have come to that, but being able to sort of talk about it and sort of admit to myself that something's not going right, instead of doing these avoidance tactics of taking forever to get home, trying to be away as much as possible. At that stage, I was working in a town that was about 2 hours away as well. So I was catching the train, and then sort of after the 2 hour train trip, then I'd walk for another hour and a half at the end of that. And, that was, anybody who was watching that would sort of say, well, that's beginning of the end. And that's, at that point in time, I didn't really have anybody that I confide with. It was sort of like, I can handle my own life. I can do this. I can work this out. I'm a big lad. But obviously I wasn't, and I wasn't coping at all, and I didn't know how to cope at that point in time. So having those male friends that I could have at that point in time gone and sort of said, oh, look, this is what I'm doing, and they might have sort of said, well, that seems a bit strange. Maybe you need to see a relationships counsellor, or you need to talk to your wife about that at that point in time, and see what's going on and see how she's feeling as well, because obviously there's tension there, and maybe you don't like conflict, and so you don't want to bring it up, or whatever it happened to be. But just having that person to talk to and having that sort of advice that is somebody else would have been really good, and would have really made it a lot easier for me to probably process and come to a better conclusion than it did. I mean, obviously I got divorced, but it might have been a little bit more amicable, or it might have been a bit better in terms of how it sort of played out in itself. And I think that's where sort of both men and women, sometimes when they're in that situation, they're not talking, we end up reverting to the childish behaviour, like, walking home. I remember I did that when I was at school, and I didn't want to go home to parents for whatever reason. I'd take a long time to get home and go meandering all over the place. So it's nearly like I hooked into that childish behaviour. And that's what a lot of times we do when we're not sure or we're not certain. We start doing childish things that then sort of that. Whereas if we had that male companion that we could talk to, that friend, who would just sort of say, look, mate, that's not going to solve anything. Doing it like that, you're not being an adult about this. And an adult is not about confrontation, but an adult is about, understanding what's going on, and then taking some sort of action to try and resolve the situation. Having a chat with somebody, which might not be the happiest chat that you want to ever have, but it's still taking a positive step. And so therefore having those male friends, those people that you can really rely on, I think is quite important. And this is more than those guys that you might meet at the pub, and just talk about sport and weather and stuff like that. Oh, I don't know, that men talk about weather too often, unless you're a farmer, obviously. But really actually opening up with somebody and sort of talking about real stuff, because I think that is very important. And I think I'm starting to see that more and more men realize that it's not about weakness, and it's not about showing, I'm showing emotion, so I'm weak and I'm not a strong man. It's about actually sort of becoming an adult as well. And that can be a huge step as well. So there are multiple changes that you need to do when you get into this sort of thing. And the first part is really about listening and being there for somebody else. And then you can hopefully, somebody will be there for you when that comes along. So really this conversation was really just based on stuff that's been happening that I've been involved in and doing these sort of men's groups and stuff like that. And I've found them absolutely to be worth their weight in gold. The people you meet and the stories that are shared, I think it just has a huge positive impact when you see other people going through this, but you can also be supportive for them as well. So, if you ever have the opportunity to go through these sort of men's, into sort of a men's group and be a part of it, it's amazing the rewards that you'll get out of it as well. But not only for yourself, but also just seeing other people suddenly thrive again as well. So male friends, they're important. They should be central to us, and we should be able to have real conversations. And not shouting matches, real conversations as well about what was really going on in our lives and stuff. So hope you found that interesting. I think it's something that's been talked about quite a bit, but it's sort of something that's been on my mind to talk about for a while. And I'm lucky that I've got a few male friends now that fit into this category that I can actually talk about these things with. And that actually makes me sort of function better as a member of society as well, a member of the community. So thanks for listening. Hope you found that interesting, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thank you.